Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
John, you had a very interesting post on Facebook this morning. Very exciting. The Grey Cup game yesterday, one of the most exciting that I have seen in some time. But you are less than thrilled with one aspect here. And you're talking about social media.
Yep.
What? Do a rant here. I you know what? You've sort of, you've wakened me now. I had no idea that this problem existed, but you've pointed out, I think, something very, very important.
Well, the CFL, and I say this coming from a place of love. I grew up in the North Side stands watching Tony Gabriel. I worked for the team for 2 years. I've been a season ticket holder for the Renegades. For the
South Side sucks.
Well, it sucks less now, but yeah, it still sucks. It breaks my heart when I watch a game like that yesterday, which to me is probably one of the best championship games we've ever seen. And the CFL's Grey Cup typically is one of the better games. Between the Super Bowl and the Grey Cup, at least, I will take the Grey Cup all the time. It's a more entertaining game. And then you see on the CFL's Facebook page this morning, they've isolated the clip. The game ends with the Hamilton quarterback trying to, complete a pass. It's bobbled by three guys and then finally intercepted. It was a fantastic end of the game. 90 people across Canada, around the world, a grand total of 90 people commented on that play on the CFL's official page.
How many should have?
I mean, if that was the Super Bowl in the NFL, you'd probably be about 900,000 easily. I mean, 90. That's 10 people per CFL market.
Why is that?
The problem with the CFL is it appears that they have handed the keys to an intern, or I almost look at it as this group of owners and the commissioner who know that they should have a social media presence, but don't understand what it is or how to harness it.
Why do you think they even understand that? Do they have someone, do you think, that's handling social media? It doesn't appear so.
It doesn't appear so to me. It really appears that it's almost like they put an intern behind a computer and go,
so what should happen, John? What should happen here?
If I'm the CFL,
where should they be? Where should they be?
If I'm the CFL and I'm trying to get this game younger and bring in new fans,
right,
I am going to put aside a six-figure budget tomorrow, and I'm going to hire a social media person who has carte blanche to create all kinds of content. Engage. The CFL, Lowell, doesn't even have a podcast. A podcast is as simple as you and I sitting down every day like we do and having a conversation and putting it out there. The CFL doesn't even have one.
So what sorts of things would they do, should do?
Conversations, the kinds of things that sports stations typically do when they interview a player, but on a regular basis. Get on a Zoom call. Do like you and I do this every single day, face to face. Video this, put it out there, engage, invite the fans into a round table to have a conversation. Get behind the scenes, show the players and their workout ethic. I read an article the other day about Tom Brady, who's 44 years old. And his workout regimen and his discipline every single day, it was 3 or 4 pages long of what this guy does every single day. Let's find out what the players in the CFL are doing.
Should the players themselves have their own podcasts and make regular appearances, let's say on Facebook, Twitch, etc.? Is that what you're saying? That kind of thing?
It's got to come from the head office. And back before they relaunched the league this year, so in the pandemic year, I was touting big time, because they were saying to the players, we're not going to be able to pay you what we were paying you. We're asking you to take a cut in salary. Well, okay, that's all well and good to look at somebody and say, I need you to take a salary hit, but how are you going to recoup that? Twitch, which is a platform that I think a lot of people are not necessarily familiar with. It's a platform I'm big on. It's an area where the viewers can tip you. and offer you money. Get someone in there who knows something about Twitch, about Facebook, about Twitter, about TikTok, about Instagram, and coach these players how to leverage this, A, as a player in the
So in
league,
other words, what
but
you're
B,
saying is
monetize it.
what you're saying is that they're not using social media, which anybody who wants to be successful today has got to use social media, any business. I mean,
Yes, sir.
it's
Well, you know that.
I absolutely. Well,
You and I,
that's
you and I
very
talk
interesting.
Facebook numbers and YouTube views all the time. It's paramount for any business. And I know Anne's saying you're losing me with all this talk of sports, but it's less a conversation about sports, although it is. But it's about marketing, and it's about how to reach an audience
Well, it's also
in this
it's about
modern.
preserving a great Canadian institution.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, the CFL is all, particularly in these last few years, sort of been teetering on the brink. And I think it's one of those unique Canadian institutions that should be preserved. And if it would help to be preserved, if you made proper use of social media, to me, that's just common sense. Okay,
it
are you going to
absolutely is.
apply for the job to get them to
No,
smarten up there?
I got enough stuff going on, but I mean they really do need to find. But this is the thing, Lowell. In the offseason, I sent them a list of 50 ideas that I put together with my listeners of
You
things
sent to
the
to the CFL?
didn't even get an acknowledgement.
So they're asleep at the switch. They want to promote the damn game, but they're not promoting it with young people. And the place to promote it with young people is on social media.
The only marketing they do is on TSN. I mean, you've got an existing viewership there. They already know. It's like telling me about a Ford when I'm already driving a Ford. I know.
Listen, talking about Ford, we have to get on to something else. Listen,
Yes,
I couldn't agree with you more. You've really opened my eyes to this, and I'm going to follow up a little bit myself on this. This is
I'm glad.
very clearly this is if we want the CFL to continue, then very clearly they've got to have some modern marketing, for heaven's sakes.
So another Ann says, she thinks money's the issue with the CFL. This is the thing, Ann. This is where social media can be so successful for them. It doesn't cost you anything to have a Facebook presence, to have a Twitter presence, to have a TikTok presence, to have a Twitch presence.
Okay.
Other than an admin person to oversee it. That's the only investment. And I think, pardon the pun, but I really think they've dropped the ball. Anyway, over to you, sir. And thank you.
I've got a couple of topics here. I have said before, and I'm saying it again, that the most dangerous person in this country is not the Winnipeg Blue Bomber quarterback. It's it's our environment minister, Stephen Guilbeault. The most dangerous person in this country. This guy, I mean, let's be very honest. Stephen Guilbeault was a radicalized zealot before he was elected. He is a super radicalized zealot now that he is Minister of the Environment. The most dangerous aspect of this is now he's in charge of telling us what we can do in this country. This idea that somehow or other he is going to impose quotas on automobile dealers. Stephen Guilbeault says that by the end of next year, that soon, he is going to have quotas imposed on every single car dealership in the country. And he won't tell us what the quota is, but they will have to sell a certain percentage of electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. He is going to establish quotas. Now, what the penalty will be if they don't meet those quotas, I don't know. And not only that, but Guilbeault and, of course, Trudeau say that by the year 2030, which is only 7.5, 8 years from now, all vehicles sold in this country, 1/2 of them, of new vehicles, 1/2 of all new vehicles will have to be electric. And apparently, if they're not, the car dealerships are going to be penalized or put out of business.
How do you mandate that, though?
Well, he's going to put quote. I mean, that's what I'm saying. This guy.
But you can't mandate sales.
He's saying that he is. He is saying that he is going to mandate sales.
Good God.
He is going to tell every single car dealership, and I hope that people who are listening to this understand the ramifications. Because if you tell a car dealership what they can sell and what they cannot sell, at the same time they are telling you. Because if the car dealership can't sell you just a regular Ford or GM or whatever, must sell you an electric vehicle, then you are being dictated to. You are being told by Stephen Guilbeault and Justin Trudeau the kind of automobile that you must buy. And one half of all vehicles, they say, in 8 years' time has got to be an electric vehicle. Now, let me just put this in perspective. The number of electric vehicles, including hybrids, is on the decline in this country. Why? Well, because we aren't giving out the kinds of rebates that we used to. Okay. Some cases we're not giving out rebates at all. So what happened? Well, 3 years ago, about 5% of all new vehicles sold in Canada were electric or hybrid. Last year, it had declined to only 3%. So from 3% vehicles sold to 50% sold in 8 years, that's what Trudeau and Guilbeault are telling you. In other words, they are telling you, folks, that within a few years' time, you probably won't have the choice. You will have to buy an electric vehicle, whether you can afford it, whether you want it, whether you think it'll work, even if it doesn't work. This is dangerous stuff. This is not only zealotry. This borders on fascism. I mean, if they can tell you what kind of a vehicle you must buy, or automobile dealers, then what's next? What are they going to tell you next? Well, you know what? We think that we're eating too much meat in this country. Cattle are, as you know, creating a lot of methane, a lot of CO2 emissions. So, starting in 2025, we're going to say you can't buy meat anymore. I mean, where does this end with these people? These radical zealots who think. Let me just think of get inside the mind of someone like a Stephen Guilbeault. I mean, he really believes, and I mean, they made this announcement. This is not just scuttlebutt. They have made this announcement.
Jeez.
So he believes that he has the right to tell private business what they must sell. Not, I mean, I can understand if it's a safety, but that's got nothing to do with it here. Now, I know there are liberal supporters out there. If you liberals or anybody supports this kind of fascism, then what else do you support? I mean, John, I shudder to think of what might be next. You're going to be forced to vote liberal? Well, don't laugh. What would be the first step in that? Well, let's control the media, right? Wouldn't that be the first step in?
Well,
I mean,
and it certainly sounds like they're trying to do that with a lot of these,
oh,
monies that are changing hands. And like you said, you need your license renewed. Well, listen, there's this guy on your radio station who's, creating a bit of a problem for us.
yeah.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I mean, if that's actually happening, that's alarming. And but I mean, how do you dictate what car dealers sell? That's like dictating that Giant Tiger has to sell 40% Canadian-made clothes. That's not up to Giant Tiger. That's up to me as the consumer.
Well, look at
which clothes I buy.
I understand, but I mean, it's already started. I have been warning people for I guess a couple of months now that starting January 1st, which is not that far away,
No.
all appliances sold in this country must be Energy Star. This is a dictate from Stephen Guilbeault. All the appliances, all the fridges and dishwashers and so forth, which in most cases are the cheaper brands, they will no longer. It'll be illegal. So now, what's going to happen? Like Shields is the one who alerted me to this. What's going to happen? I mean, Shields very clearly at the January 1st is going to have some of those old models. Will they be allowed to sell, or will they go for scrap? I don't know. That hasn't been announced. All I know is that the government has already dictated that as of January 1st, just a few days from now, only Energy Star new appliances can be sold anywhere in Canada. That's the most expensive of them all. Many of the appliances sold today are not Energy Star, particularly with fridges, dishwashers, etc. Not Energy Star. So they've already started to dictate what you can sell. So they are telling appliance dealers coast to coast in this country, well, as of January 1st, you've been selling these. Well, you're not going to sell them anymore. You're not allowed to sell them. So it's already started, folks. So just wait. Can you imagine? No, he says Gilbo says that he is going to start this quota, and he uses the word quota, next year. Within a few months' time, he's going to tell all car dealers how many electric vehicles, what percentage of the vehicles sold must be electric. As I say, I have no idea what the penalty will be, but presumably that I guess the government probably has. I guess it has the power to remove your license, right? To put you out of business.
I guess.
I
You know what I hear you say when you say this? Okay, it's one thing. I compare it instantly to the radio industry, where we've got 30 and 40% regulations as to the amount of Canadian content music stations must play. That's one thing to regulate the industry of what they must play. So, okay, regulate the car industry that they must make 30% of the vehicles available that are electric. That's one thing. But if the broadcast industry turned around or the CRTC said, Canadian consumer must buy 30 or 40% Canadian music, that's a whole other conversation.
And that's exactly, you've hit the nail on the head. That's right. It's not so much telling the dealerships what they must sell. It's telling telling the consumers, you and I, what we must buy. And by the way,
I've got 4 gas vehicles in the back I'd love to sell you, but I'm not allowed to right now. Please, please, please buy an electric instead so I can offload these other 4 to the next person that comes in the door.
Or still stay in business. Also, I just want to remind you that both Gilbo and Trudeau say that 1/2, in other words, 50% of all new vehicles in this country must be electric by 2030. That's 8 years from now. 100%, they say, must be electric by 2035. So in other words, they are going to very quickly outlaw the sale of all but electric vehicles. And just as one problem, I mean, we have no means of supplying 100% of vehicles sold in this country must be electric. Where are we going to get the electricity from? How are we going to carry that electricity to the homes?
How are transport trucks going to run if they're all electric?
But that's what they're saying, folks. That's what I'm pointing out here. One of the things is the zealotry, the ideology that these people are promoting. It's green energy. It doesn't matter whether it's practical. It doesn't matter whether it's a form of fascism to impose this. They're going to do it anyway. You know why they're going to do it? Because it's good for you. How do you know it's good for you? Well, because I'm telling you it's good for you. That's essentially what it is. Does this sound like Mussolini? Does this sound a little bit like some of the other fascists? Well, we know what's good for you. That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. And talking about appliances, once again, I come to Shields. It was Shields who actually sent me the letter. I have the letter right here from the Government of Canada, from the Department of the Environment, alerting all appliance dealerships in the country that as of January 1st, they will not be allowed to sell any appliance that's not Energy Star, which, as I say, is always intended to be the upper, the Cadillac sort of appliances. Well, not everybody can afford the Cadillac. And as Mark Shields of Shields points out, it's the people of lower income, working class people are going to suffer the most because they won't have the less expensive brands anymore. Just will not be available. Not only that, but according to Shields, and it makes good sense to me, and that is that many of the brands that we are accustomed may not be available anymore because most of these appliances are made in the United States. Canada's a very small market, so they're not going to change their manufacturing process in the United States to accommodate a very small market up here. So some of these items that are not Energy Star just simply will not be available anywhere. Folks, just want to remind you, I want to thank Shields. They're the ones who alerted me. And if you're in the market for appliance or will by any time, good idea to check out Shields right now. I've got a lot of wonderful sales. Shields.ca. John, we've got some comments coming in here, please.
We absolutely do. Anne says they want us to all ride bikes, just like in China. Lori says, yes, I heard that, Lowell. This is just not going to work. Joshua calls it one more step towards socialism. Lisa says that Gilbo dude is a commie who wants to rule us all from controlling free speech to now what we can buy. Nice. Todd says Gilbo is an absolute nut. They should have just left him dangling from the CN tower.
Yeah, the only thing, let me just jump in here. Mm-hmm. He may be a nut. He should be whatever you say. But the fact of the matter is that he is one of the most powerful,
Yep.
powerful people in this country. Stephen Guilbeault is a cabinet minister, a senior cabinet minister in the Trudeau government. He has the power and apparently plans to exercise it. So you can rant and rave all you want. He has the power. Go ahead, John.
Chris on Facebook, Guilbeault is following through on the Liberal campaign promises of the last election. They had stated a goal of 50% electric vehicles by 2030 and 100% by 2035. So while it's fine to have the stated goals, it's definitely concerning that they're forcing the hands of dealers who have gas cars on their hands to be forced to sell electric. That means that salespeople are going to be forced to put forth cars that might not be in your best interest today. That's a problem. A big problem, says Chris on Facebook.
Yeah, that's a very good point. In other words, yeah, today you would hope that when you go in to buy an automobile, that you are being sold an automobile that everybody agrees is in your best interest. But if the car dealership knows that, holy smokes, we got to get 2 electric cars out today, or we may be out of business. Well, you know which vehicle they're going to push on you. Go ahead.
Interesting comment from Ken, who's watching on Twitch. What happens to all the used vehicles?
Well, no, it's new cars. They say new car, all new cars by the year 2030. 50% of them must be electric. Go ahead.
All right. Text at 613-413-2217. John, you are right about the CFL. They don't have good enough promotion. College football in the USA is probably watched more in Canada than the CFL is. When we have a pro team that would be lucky if they would win a game against any of the top 10 college teams from the States. The Red Blacks are so bad, I don't watch any of their games. Come on, they just won like a Grey Cup a couple of years ago. They are in their 3 or 5. CFL is exciting. Get out and watch it. I digress. Let's see. And by 2035, they want all gas vehicles off the road, only electric allowed, says Kathy. Glenn says, if he sets the quotas, how much in credits will he issue to purchasers of convinced, what is word? The word
conventional, maybe. I don't.
CONVINVCE to buy them. And he's got it in quotes, too. I don't understand. I'm sorry. Deborah says, this is the beginning of fascism in Canada, brought to us all by those who voted Liberal. I am so pissed off. Peter says, well, if the Tories hadn't blown the election campaign, we wouldn't have this problem. And Todd says, Trudeau.
Oh, you know, I see. Well, hold it just a minute. That drives me crazy. So this is the Tories' fault. The fact that Guilbeault is going to win, Trudeau is going to impose this is really the Tories' fault. Oh my God. Go ahead, please, John.
Ken follows up to say, I guess the resale market for cars will become a lot bigger than it is now. The NDP and BQ have the power to topple this government. Will they? Not a chance, says Terry, watching on Twitch. Lynn is on Facebook. She says, we sure are paying for others' stupidity. Time to put those old junk boxes back on the road, says Donald. Watch Guilbeault issue an edict to gas stations to reduce available gas supply by 50% soon so we can't get gas, is a comment from Glenn. That, Glenn, I made sense of. Anne says Canadians voted him in and we will suffer the consequences. Where will we plug in these cars, asks Terry. Don't worry, Trudeau will give you a great deal on all of these plugs. Lynn, oh, that's not the word. Terry, you're being obscene, please. Lynn says, I'd like to know what happens to the batteries from electric vehicles when they are no longer any good.
You know what? This is all fine. It's good stuff, but it's not new. What I would like some comments on is the issue here of the forced dealerships. Okay, they are going to be, and we as consumers are going to be forced, dictated to by a government. That to me is the issue. All these other issues about will the batteries work, that's old stuff. What I would like people to do is concentrate on the real issue here. The fact that we have a government that believes that it knows best and can tell us what we can buy and what we cannot buy, not for safety reasons, okay? I mean, the government has a duty to protect us. That's not what this is. But does it bother you? Let me put it this way. Does it bother you? Does it concern you that we have a government that plans to dictate to dealerships, to private business, and to you and I what we can buy in appliances and in automobiles? Does that bother you? That's the real issue. John.
I'm not seeing many comments on that, but we'll let those trickle in. I think you know how I stand on that. That's a huge overstep. We're a free society. It's capitalism. We live in a capitalist society where I get to pick and choose. And okay, so here we go. Lisa says, yes, it bothers me. Craig says, forcing auto dealers to sell one item over another is unconstitutional. The Ontario government has already passed laws about what we can and cannot say, so why not pass laws about what we can buy, says Ken. What can
Wait a
we
minute,
do?
hold it.
Mm-hmm.
What law tells us what we can say? I'm unclear on that. I think sometimes people make this stuff up. What law do we have that says what we can say? I'm going to tell you right now, I can say anything I freaking well want right now.
Yes, you can.
So
Ken will await a response on that. I'm watching for you.
Yeah, come on, Ken. Hey, you know what? You're going to make statements like that. If it's true, you can back it up. If it's not, withdraw it. Okay, go ahead, John.
Lisa asks, what can we do, Lowell? When we contact our MPs to complain, we are met with silence.
Yeah, well, that could very well be, depending upon who the MP is. But I mean, my job is to do the best I can to alert you at some of the problems or what I perceive to be problems. You may not. That's my job. That's John's job on this program. We do the best we can to present to you what we think are some problems. We don't have all the solutions. The solutions lie with you. The solutions may have to occur during the next election. I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, though. I learned this a long time ago, and it's been confirmed. Do you realize that if any single MP or MPP were to receive 100 faxes, emails, texts, or letters, or phone calls, 100, that they would change their opinion? That would, if, in other words, all it takes is 100 people to voice outrage or concern on something like this, and you get their attention. Okay, that's all it takes, and very, very, very infrequently, even on matters of major industry, will there be 100 people. So in the end, it really depends on you. In a democracy, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Not only do we have a responsibility to play a role, but we have a duty. That's how we keep democracies free.
Yep.
Go ahead, John. Anything else?
Ken has responded. He says Bill C-16 in Ontario is the bill he is referring to.
What's Bill C-16?
That is the Gender Identity Bill.
Gender Identity Bill. Oh, I don't know what that is. Go ahead.
Nor do I.
Go ahead, John.
Kathy says, yes, of course it bothers me that a government thinks they have the right to dictate what we buy, but until Canadians, the NDP, and the Bloc step up to the plate and remove the Liberals, we are stuck with this nonsense. Kim says, this is very concerning that the government is going to tell me what kind of car to buy. I look around and wonder where all these electric cars will be plugged in. What about people in apartments? What about the power grid? Can it handle that? There should be boundaries that the government should not cross, and this is one. It will be just like everything else. They say do it without providing us any of the answers to our concerns. Nina says, yes, everything the Liberal government does bothers me. We should flood the Governor General's office with a request for Trudeau's resignation. 100,000 signatures is all we need.
Just before we go, I have to get a word in here. John, some of the most pampered, healthiest, strongest, best cared for residents of our city are those magnificent Clydesdale horses that patrol the Byward Market. On the other hand, some of the most neglected, abused, unhealthiest residents of our city are the homeless and the addicts who huddle on the frigid, damp streets of our market. But in the eyes and thoughts of some, apparently a good many, the real concern here is the Clydesdale horses. This is unbelievable. I mean, animal lovers, most of them are good people, well-intentioned. But some of them, I am afraid, have no idea what they're talking about. They're just flocking to some sort of cause to try and give their life a purpose. They have a miserable life, so they try to give their lives a purpose. So they picket they picket pipelines and railways and green and all the rest of it. And now they're picketing animals. Many farmers are telling me they have a hell of a time now. They're getting visited from various PETA operatives, et cetera, God help the farmer who has a horse or a cow lying down in the field, because people are sure to stop and accuse him of killing the animal, whatever it is. It's wild. So now these people are saying that these horses, these beautiful Clydesdale horses, they are magnificent and well looked after, believe me. That they pull a little rubber-wheeled wagon around the market with tourists. The tourists love it. The residents, the shoppers, everybody in the market loves it. They come up and they pat the horse. These are the most pampered and petted animals probably in the entire city. But for some reason, the animal rights, don't you realize these big Clydesdales are built? They are bred to pull loads. And as somebody said, you know what? Two Clydesdales pulling a wagon with a few tourists is about the equivalent of you pushing a shopping cart. I mean, these are the animals that opened this country. They tilled the fields. They harvested. They brought food to your door. I mean, nobody remember when the horses would bring the milk cart? Okay, nobody complained about the horse and the milk cart, the bread cart. He brought coal. Horses brought the coal. They brought ice, etc. These animals are bred. In fact, in the case of these Clydesdales, they need the exercise. I can't get inside a horse's head, but I would probably suggest that they really enjoy getting out there and doing a little bit of exercise. So for these people, misguided to try and put a stop to this, one of the most popular tourist attractions we have, and thinking that somehow or other this abusing horses. Let me just say this to you. You have no idea about farm life, about agriculture, and you sure as hell have no idea what Clydesdale horses are all about. This is what they are for. And let me say this, that if we don't have horses left pulling things like this, then we won't have these horses. They exist for this, and I suggest to you they love it. They are pampered. You know what? If you're really, really, really concerned about this country, about the people, etc., etc., why don't you concern yourself about the homeless and the addicts sprawled on the streets? Some of these people drive into the market with their cars, park their cars, step over one or two of these homeless people, and go out and try to stop a beautiful horse. Misguided, foolish, ridiculous. Thank you, John. We'll be back.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.